And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo. It's time for another deck tech, and this is Chatterfang Squirrel General. And I'm sure most people have probably already seen this one. There's a lot of buzz about the new Squirrel Commander, right? 2 and a green, Squirrel Warrior, 3/3. It's got Forest Walk, and I gotta say, I love that they're bringing back Land Walk. They had sort of phased it out, just like they were phasing out Protection, because I guess they figured that, you know, it sort of makes it unfun for the person that is that particular color. The fact that, you know, you can't interact with someone who has Protection from certain colors. Anyone who's played an Orzhov deck against an Animar deck knows exactly what I'm talking about. Land Walk is sort of the same thing. The fact that your opponent's creatures are just unblockable just because of the land type you're playing. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I kind of like it myself. I just think it adds another interesting aspect to the game. So the Forest Walk here is significant. Definitely forests are quite common in Commander, but I think the second ability here is a lot more significant. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens are created instead. So I had to read that one over a few times. I'm thinking, okay, well, how come it doesn't just keep creating tokens then? But it's a replacement effect, right? So basically every time you create a token, any token, so you create a treasure token, you're going to get a treasure token and a squirrel token. If you create an elf token, you're going to get an elf token and a squirrel token. If you create 5 elf tokens, you're going to get 5 elf tokens and 5 squirrel tokens, right? Because you get that many on top of it. And then the last ability, pay 1 black, sacrifice X squirrels, target creature gets plus X, minus X until end of turn. So I wasn't going to talk about this commander at all. I wasn't even going to do a quick brew with it because I thought, you know what, this is so obvious what you want to be doing here. You just want to be playing Squirrel Tribal. So just put all of those Squirrels Matters cards in here. Easy peasy done. There's not really much to talk about. And then I thought, well, you know what, that middle ability there, if you would create 1 or more tokens, create the squirrel tokens as well, that is really the significant ability here. And I don't think you really actually need to build a Squirrel Tribal deck with this. You're in black here, and black creates tokens really, really well. So I thought, why not try making a Chatterfang deck that isn't Squirrel Tribal? Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of Squirrel stuff going on anyway, because you're creating Squirrel tokens, and then you're sacrificing Squirrel tokens. But I just thought that last ability where you're sacrificing Squirrel tokens, you're not really going to use that much, I don't think. You're going to use it once in a while. You can use it on your commander. You can sacrifice 2 of your Squirrel tokens, make your commander into a 5/1, and then it has Forest Walk, so it's probably going to be unblockable if you're attacking someone with forests. But really, I think the build here is a token deck, not a squirrel deck. It's a token deck. You want to be creating tokens as much as you can, and then the squirrel tokens you get are added bonuses. And black and green do that really, really well. My Pharika deck is essentially that sort of deck where I'm making tokens, then I'm sacrificing, using them to my benefits in other ways. You know, so I made a deck that wasn't totally focused on squirrels, but more on making tokens, because I think that's where the huge benefit here is. I did put stuff like Deranged Hermit in here. I mean, you know, it's just a great card. It's going to make us tokens. It's going to make 4 squirrel tokens, and it's going to pump all those squirrels that we do have. But more so, I just want stuff that's really good at making tokens in black and green, like Endrixar, right? Endrixar is going to be fantastic in this deck because whenever we cast a creature spell, we're going to be creating that many 1/1 black Thrall creature tokens. So if we cast, say, a 3-drop, right, and we have our commander in play, we're going to create 3 black Thrall creature tokens, and then we get 3 squirrel tokens on top of it. The that many part is really the important part here. Whenever you see that many, you really want to be taking advantage of that. So rather than I'm going to create some squirrel tokens, I think this is, let's create as many tokens as we can, and then we also get the squirrel tokens on top of it. So if we can create 6 Thrall tokens with our Endrixar, we're going to get 6 squirrel tokens as well. Nadir, Agent of Dust now, probably put this guy in at least 10 decks already. I say it all the time, and I know I gush over him a lot. He just goes in so many decks. I think he's fantastic in this deck, and that's the kind of stuff I want to be doing. Rather than concentrating too much on making squirrels and pumping up our squirrels or whatever, let's just concentrate on making tokens. Nadir's Nightblade is obviously going to be an auto include here as well, right? Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's a Zulaport Cutthroat essentially for tokens. I think it's probably going to be an auto include, even if you are just going with the Squirrel Tribal. With Chatterfang, I think you probably want to put this in the deck. But I mean, Tendershoot Dryad, Awakening Zone, right? There's lots and lots of fantastic token makers. If we just don't worry about the squirrel part, just we're going to make tokens, right? So every time that Saproling token comes into play on any of our opponent's upkeeps or ours, we're going to get a squirrel token as well. Pitiless Plunderer is maybe the best card in this deck. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with sacrifice this, right? So I don't know if anyone's discovered this one yet or not, but this is any creature that you control that's dying, even token creatures. So we sacrifice one of our squirrel tokens. It's going to create a treasure token as well as a squirrel token if our Chatterfang's in play that we can then sacrifice. And I think you know where this goes. This can very easily be an infinite sacrifice, right? And our Nadir Nightblade's in play and we just win. Creating that treasure token gives us a squirrel token as well. And we can even use the treasure token for Chatterfang's ability, right? To pay that black, so we can continually keep doing that as well. Even can kill off our opponent's creatures with it if we want. Revel in Riches, you know, talking about killing our opponent's creatures, this is going to be great. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a treasure token. Again, we're getting a treasure token, so why not get a squirrel token as well? And then, hey, maybe at the beginning of our upkeep, if we control 10 or more treasure tokens, we just win the game. I think Fane the Broker is a fantastic include in this deck. You know, I didn't love him as a commander, but I just thought he goes in a lot of decks, and this is one deck he's fantastic in. He has 2 ways to make tokens, right? You can remove a counter from a creature you control to create a treasure token, which gives you a squirrel token, or you can sacrifice an artifact and create a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying, which also gives you a squirrel token. So he can be helping us make squirrel tokens like crazy. He makes tokens himself, and he also has that sacrifice a creature ability, which we're going to have lots of creatures to sacrifice. This is going to be your typical sort of Golgari deck where you're making creature tokens, sacrificing a little bit of an Aristocrats type of deck. So Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pact, obviously. We're going to be keeping our opponent's creatures off the board very easily. And I mean, you just don't have to look very far to find stuff that fits in a theme of a deck like this. Even just look to the last set that came out, a Strixhaven. How about Demogoth Titan? This is a 4 mana 11/10. Whenever Demogoth Titan attacks or blocks, sacrifice a creature. Hey, we got lots of token creatures sitting around that we can sacrifice, so that's not going to be a problem. And hey, why don't we match this up with Chatterfang's last ability? Let's sacrifice, I don't know, 7 tokens and give our Demogoth Titan +7, -7, and it's going to be, what, an 18/3? That's pretty good. So I think that's a great fit in the deck. Demogoth Woe Eater, too. 4 mana demon, 7/6. Again, a really cheap big creature at the beginning of your upkeep. Sacrifice a creature. No problems there. Whenever you sacrifice Demogoth Woe Eater, each opponent discards a card and you draw a card and you gain 2 life, so we can sacrifice it to itself. Just another big beater, and again, we can use Chatterfang's ability to make it even better. That's the thing about Chatterfang. I thought, you know, that last ability is not great in a squirrel deck because all your squirrels are going to be like 1/1s, so you can't really beef them up because you'll just kill them. Even your Chatterfang, you can only make it like a 5/1. That's okay, but it'd be great to put some of these bigger creatures in here that we could really take advantage of that last ability and give our Demogoth Woe Eater +5, -5 and make it into a 12/1. That seems pretty good. Plum the Forbidden. I just love this card. There were so many cards to talk about in my top 20 Strixhaven cards that this one got left off the list, but I really like it a lot. 2 mana instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, copy it for each creature that was sacrificed, and you draw a card and you lose life. So basically what this is saying is you just sacrifice any number of creatures and you draw that many cards and lose that much life. So in a deck where you got a bunch of tokens you can sacrifice, fantastic. We can just sacrifice 5 of our squirrel tokens or any of our tokens, draw 5 cards, lose 5 life. Pretty fantastic. And like I said, really the deck is I'm making tons of tokens, and then Chatterfang is giving me even more tokens, and then I just do a whole lot of the, you know, Aristocrats theme that I would normally do. I just think if you don't concentrate too much on the actual squirrel theme, you can still put a little bit in here. You can still put some stuff that's maybe going to pump your team. But if we just concentrate more on the I'm going to make lots of tokens and sacrifice tokens, I think Chatterfang makes a really formidable commander in that regard. So that is my Chatterfang Squirrel General deck. And that is it for today. Thanks for tuning in.